Toys. We've all had one. They're an intergenerational thing. No matter what age you are or where you come from, we've all had one. Someone or something to share best and worst moments with as children. This documentary, our Trusty Companions, will look at the differences and similarities between the different generations of toys, with particular focus on today's generations of toys. Hello, I'm Reeve O'Neill and I'm 17 years of age. Personally, I had quite a lot of childhood toys when I was growing up. I also used to play with Playmobil. They were about that size. So they would come with like a building or a camper van and you would used to act out plays with them. They usually cost £40, but you got the people and a set, so to speak. I also played with Sylvanian families, which were kind of the same deal, but they were small animals, whereas the Playmobil were more people. I preferred the people because they were more realistic. Again, the Sylvanian families came with buildings as well. I also used to have a 3DS, well I still have it, and it's still good for journeys because it's compact and of course the case is good. It's in aqua blue and you'd play games on them. You'd have a small 3DS game and my favourite game was Mario Kart or Animal Crossing because I had a DS and then when I was 10 I got the 3DS. So the 3DS cost quite a lot of money, so did the DS, but I don't think as much because it wasn't as technologically advanced as the 3DS, because the 3DS showed your game in a 3D version, so you would at the top get a 3D cinematic experience almost. I also used to have a Wendy house. There was a lot of pretending games and acting them out. So you would have your Wendy house and your fake toy car as well, made out of plastic, and you would just use your feet to wheel it about. Favourite toy as a child, so I called her Lucy, and she's quite big. Well, she's not that big anymore because I've grown, of course, but as a kid she was quite big. So I used to dress her up in my clothes, and she would have this lovely bow tie, blue velvet and then red inside. I got her, I was 1, it was my first birthday present, and of course she was bigger than me. I used to take her everywhere with me, but this of course, because of her size, she's not like this size, of course, which is another one of my childhood toys. Again, with the clothes. You used to get the clothes in Build-A-Bear for this one. Build-A-Bear was like a teddy bear shop. So you would choose your toy, you would get to put in the stuffing and you would put in like a small heart in it. But of course the Build-A-Bear workshop clothes wouldn't really fit her either. My least favourite childhood memory was when we had guests over and a dog named Shuggy like chewed her eye. So that was very traumatic. I think I was 5 at the time. I think because my generation is quite close to today's generation, there'd be a lot of similarities, especially with my generation and theirs, considering that a lot of our toys were also technological. So you would also get like kid computers. I had like a Barbie one, the Wii game console. My favourite game on that was Just Dance. So yeah, we still get teddy bears and of course video games. So I don't think there have been a lot of differences. Maybe in the price, just as technology advances, so there can be, but I think mainly there's a lot of similarities.
Hello, I'm Dixie and I'm 20. My favourite toy, not currently obviously, as a child, my favourite toy was a ginger teddy bear. And he was my favourite toy because he was ginger and very scruffy, very cute. He had a wee smart bow tie. Ginger came with me places, so we experienced life together for quite a few years. Because he didn't do much, he became more of just a pal, I suppose. I didn't so much have a favourite memory with Ginger, but like it would be the times of day and stuff that you'd be with him that you would remember him, so like bedtime and stuff, so he just enhanced those memories. And if we went places, he would then represent those memories, I suppose, because you would remember them when you looked at them. But he wasn't so much a creator of the memory. I suppose it was a bit sad when he went from very fluffy to very scruffy. The wear and tear aspect of having a teddy as a companion and not a human being was obviously maybe not so good. The similarities and differences between today's toys is technology, as is with everything. Teddy bear is timeless, so Ginger was a timeless toy and would never have been influenced by technology as such, but he was influenced by evolving toy fashions, because obviously now he's covered in like a two-piece from the Build-A-Bear workshop, and that wouldn't have been a thing if I had got Ginger 20 years before that. I think I got Ginger for Christmas one year, or a birthday, I'm not sure, but obviously you can't find out where your teddy bears come from, because that's just beyond the point. If you walk into a shop and there's 1,000 of your teddy bears, you're going to be a bit disappointed. So,
my name's Eileen and I was born in 1965, which makes me 53.
I am Stephen. I was born in 1969, making me 49. So, Eileen,
Yes.
what have you got with you today to show?
Well, today I've brought my Jacko. Jacko was my favourite childhood toy. I got when I was about 4. And I used to push Jacko about in a doll's pram because I liked Jacko better than Dolly's actually. I thought he was more lifelike. This was his original outfit. And then we put a nice red jumper on him because he looked cold. This is actually my christening bracelet Jacko was wearing. Traditionally in those days you got a wee silver bracelet when you were christened, so Jacko was actually wearing mine, which is quite nice.
Got a bit of bling.
Yes, blinged up. We pimped up Jacko, which is quite nice. And what do you have, Stephen?
I have a boat, a model boat. 2 of these boats in our house. Clyde Model Dockyard in the Agawa Arcade in Glasgow city centre. And we live beside Victoria Park in Glasgow, and there's a great big boating pond, and me and my brother used to take the 2 boats down, and you would put them in and rig them up for the wind, and they would just sail across to the other side, and then you'd run round the side and get them. And if there was no wind, it would be stuck in the middle until the wind picked up, and you'd have to wait there for half an hour or something until it started to get windy again. Quite a nice thing. It's the only thing I've got kind of toy wise from my childhood that's still left. A bit broken, but still quite a nice thing, and as we live by the sea, it keeps it up in the windows and all of it.
Yeah, it looks quite nice from outside, so that's a nice thing. The other thing that I've brought are my scraps. What scraps are these things here. Basically you used to go into the newsagent and buy a sheet of scraps, and then you would cut them out from the sheet. You can see some of the wee tags still attached, and then you would put them into any kind of book that you had handy. And then what you would do is you would sit with your pal and her books of scraps, and they would go through your book of scraps. Can you hold Sally, please? And the ones that they wanted, they would put up. And if you didn't want to swap the scraps, you would write no on the back of the scraps. You see, I've got an embassy catalogue.
So do you want to explain what an embassy catalogue is? Because that's a...
Well, an embassy catalogue comes in the days when everybody smoked. What happened was the packets of cigarettes came with a coupon inside them, and I don't know how much the coupons were worth actually, but basically you saved them up, and then you could swap them for things in the catalogue. So for example, a Lego set you could get for 1,390 vouchers.
And I can see there's a Meccano set. I used to have Meccano as a child, which was the wee metal thing.
Which is Meccano? Meccano was, you need to smoke a bit, 3,650 vouchers. And I think as people came up to Christmas, they smoked more and more because they were trying to get enough coupons. They're called vouchers in the catalogue, but they were known as coupons to buy these things for the kids. Look there, and there's a wee space hopper. There, you still get them now. Table football, you still get that. Subbuteo, you still get that. What's that? Magic set.
Pair of roller skates.
Oh, the roller skates. We used to get on our roller skates and hang on to the back of a chopper bike.
Here we go.
A chopper bike. A chopper bike was meant to look like a big kind of Harley Davidson motorbike. It's got a big long saddle, and it's got these mad handlebars and a bit at the back. And basically that's why the chopper bikes were so good to hang on to in your roller skates, because it had that bit up at the back there, and you could hang on, and round the block you could go, but the only problem with it is sometimes as you were going round the corner, you can accidentally let go, and that was never good for your face, really, to be honest.
Scooters.
Yeah, you still get these same scooters. I mean, for a while there was those inline ones, but they were rubbish.
We used to have a scooter, we had different types of scooters, but we used to have one with a big back brake on it, a big kind of chunky scooter, and that was good. You could fly with that.
But then, I mean, you just get things like climbing frames and paddling pools. All these things are now. This catalogue is from 1973, 74.
So one of the things I've got with me, which isn't really a toy as much as a collection, I've got the Stanley Gibbons
Well, this
stamp
isn't really
handle.
a toy either, Stephen, to be honest.
This is from 1969, so that's the date I was born, so I'm assuming I got it, somebody gave it as a present when I was born. And I had this all through school. It has the maps of the world, it had lots of stamps in it from different, there's Mongolia. So I find this really interesting because you would have stamps from all around the... I had uncles and aunts that lived over in Canada, so there was lots of Canadian stamps from back then, and there's Great Britain and all the different countries, and quite often the countries now that are in this book don't even exist anymore. But there's the Canadian ones, things like 5 cents, 3 cents, 2 cents, 1 cent. And I find that really interesting because you could look at stamps from different countries around the world and think what they would be like to go and visit.
So one of the things that kids used to get routinely at Christmas were annuals. This one here is from 1972. I think it was my sister that got it, Auntie Susan. And basically it's the same as you get now. It's just a kind of combination of stories and cartoons and I suppose there's puzzles and things like that in it. But what I am aware of actually is that there's certainly more text in it than kids would expect now. Like there's proper stories to read. Whereas now I think it would be the pages would be much less dense, so that is a big change, I think. And now it would be much more puzzles, and I actually can't see any puzzles in here at all, really. Oh, there he is, Prince Philip. Prince Philip as a young man. I don't know how old that scrap is, but it looks pretty old, doesn't it?
Well, he must be. What age is he now?
He's 172, I think
so. So he must be.
So he must be, about 42 there. So that's quite a while away. And that's really, I mean, toys were, I think, pretty much the same in those days as they are now.
What's the difference of the electronic toys now?
Yeah.
A lot of kids, I guess.
Oh, Katie Copycat, she was my first kind of semi-electronic toy. She wasn't electronic at all. But basically, Katie Copycat came with a desk. It was a dolly with a desk and a hand that could take a pencil. And there was a wee slot. And you put your pen in there, your pencil in there, and you wrote, and Katie Copycat copied what you wrote. Katie Copycat was quite a favourite, actually, I have to say. I liked her enormously. But we didn't have technology in the way that kids now have. We barely had a television.
A lot of the toys when I was young was things like guns and toy soldiers, the soldiers. And we had a lot of cowboy toys as well, so we had a lot of cowboy like cowboy hats and holsters and rifles. And we'd actually play with the other kids in the street.
In terms of toys, I think we didn't have that many, but we played a lot outside with kids that lived around us. So I think that was the main difference,
Weird. So I remember playing with my toys a lot outside. So there was a lot of playing outside with your toys, whereas I think now a lot of kids are just inside on their computer games. And people don't let their kids maybe outside to play as much as they did in the past. But certainly we play in the street with our toys.
I like playing marbles actually on the stanks outside. You used to play because there were stanks outside that came with holes, like literally that fit the marbles, and so you could play with the marbles there.
And I was the same. We used to collect marbles and trade marbles at primary school.
Yeah.
And you'd play for marbles, you'd play your games, and if you lost your games you'd have to give away your favourite marble.
Yeah. So that's about it, really.
I'm from a generation post-war. I was born in 1948. Most of the children in my generation, we played outside a lot more. There weren't televisions till I think about the late 50s. Children were out all of the time. There was no computers, no phones. Our toys were simple things like, I've got this little tin here. There was something we called, brought up in Glasgow, we called it peaver. and it was actually hopscotch, and we used to take a shoe polish tin or a sweet tin and fill it with stones to weigh it down, and we would play peever or hopscotch. Skipping ropes. People sometimes did have the wee individual sets of skipping ropes with wee painted animal handles, but most of the time it was actually a group activity, and we got a big piece of washing line which had weight in it, and we would go to a school playground after hours and play skipping, and there'd be maybe half a dozen or more girls, and we'd take turns of being an ender and being in a line of jumpers. Another outdoor thing was balls. It was rubber balls about the size of a tennis ball, hard rubber balls, and you would play against a smooth wall, and you would use one ball and you would put it behind your back and turn round and do sort of tricks with actually two balls. If you could do, you would hit it like that against a wall and behind your back. So there was skipping ropes, there was the ball, there was peever, roller skates, and that again was you liked a smooth surface, and pavements were often lumpy, so again it was climbing over the school fence and getting into the nice smooth tarmacadam in the school playground after hours. Indoor games, dolls pram, soft toys, puppets. I love glove puppets. I had a whole collection of these. My first one was Wee Panda and Sooty and Sweep, and I remember that was 8 shillings in Marks and Spencer's, which was actually quite a lot of money at that time. I've got this bear here. This is I've dressed it as Rupert Bear. It isn't Rupert Bear. My father used to work in a shop, a salesman display model, and so I got it eventually, and I called it Rupert because I used to love Rupert annuals, and this is a facsimile of a 1948 Rupert annual, which was the year I was born, and it was actually a strip cartoon, a black and white strip cartoon in the Daily Express. So I used to love Rupert, and I used to always get a Rupert annual at Christmas, and it's something I've carried on with my daughter, and this is the 2019 Rupert annual, so that's not changed. I remember liking at Christmas time a yo-yo. I used to have a really nice yo-yo, a really smooth, they called it a professional yo-yo. It was cream plastic, and it used to do walk the dog and whirlies. I can't remember what all the wee terms were called. Getting a post office set which had stationery and stamps and wee rubber stampers, and a magic set. I remember when I was about primary 3-4. Paper dressing up dolls with wee tabs on the shoulder, or sometimes you get magnetic ones, and that's still popular today. Plastic puzzles. There used to be a square, I think they had 16 squares and one was blank, and there would be pictures, letters, numbers, and you moved them about, and I think that's probably the forerunner of something like the Rubik's Cube that you get today. Scraps. Sometimes now you still get sheets of scraps of different things, a big thick book, and you would put a scrap in each page, and you would swap books of scraps with other people. So you could spend hours sitting going through books of scraps. Hula hoops, remember there were odd phases came through, and hula hoops was one, and that's one that still comes round every few years. You still have hula hoops. But I think probably the main change, use of phones, use of video games, use of TV, DVDs, that's been the biggest revolution, I think, in probably children's toys and games. But the basics are still there.
As we've learned throughout this documentary, there aren't a lot of differences between toys. Children like to play imaginary games, they like to collect things, and they like to look after things. All the toys from all the different generations are all rather similar with one another. Therefore, as toys have never really changed, we're led to believe that they never really will.